Now for our next task, and in fact our two final tasks here for this objective, we want to talk a bit about the update process for these images after you get them into Windows Deployment Services. If you've been tooling around inside of WDS and taking a look at the different images you have, you may have noticed that there isn't any exposure inside of WDS to go about modifying an image once it's been imported. If I take a look here at my Windows 8.1 image and right-click, you'll see I can replace the image, but I can't go and dig into the image to make changes or to perform updates. Well, a lot of these tasks actually happen outside of WDS using the dism command, which is entirely a command line process. The dism command is kind of the Swiss Army knife of these WIM files because it allows you to mount them, make changes to them, apply patches or hotfixes or drivers, and then seal everything back together to again create a deployable WIM file. Once you've made those changes, then you can come back here into WDS and click this Replace Image link here to go about replacing the existing image with the one you've changed. I want to show you just a little kind of micro environment that I've put together that will help you understand the different commands you need to know inside of DISM for performing many of these tasks. And the only reason why I've done this is because it makes it easier on just the length of the commands that we have to take a look at. I have created a folder here in the E drive called Test, and in there I have a copy of the install.wim file. This is that Windows 8.1 install.wim we were working with earlier. And I've also copied over here a copy of the VMware Workstation driver, that vmscsi driver. I've copied over a package, which happens to be the RSAT for Windows 8.1, the Remote Systems Administration Tools. I literally just downloaded these off of Microsoft's website, as well as an update or a patch. This patch I downloaded from catalog.update.microsoft.com, where you can create an update bundle and download a patch outside the usual Windows update services. I include these here because they give us an opportunity to explore how we can use DISM to update an image with things like patches and hotfixes and drivers. So let's actually take a look at this process here. And in fact, let's just minimize this and minimize this as well so that we can bring open a PowerShell command prompt and then take a look at the command line tools we would use to accomplish these tasks. Now the first thing I want to do is go to that test location where I've got a copy of install.wim because it, again, just makes things easier here for all the different commands we're going to have to deal with. In order for us to be able to make changes to a WIM file, we need to mount that WIM file to a folder that already exists here in the Windows operating system. So let's go ahead and create that folder. We'll call it mount. So now we have a mount subfolder here under E:\test. With that folder, we're now going to take a look at the WIM file that we want to mount to that mount subfolder. The first command I want to show you is dism get wiminfo, and then a WIM file would be install.wim. So essentially I want to identify what kind of info is associated with this file. You'll notice here that most important is the name, Windows 8.1 Enterprise. We can also see a description and the size and the fact that there's an index on this. It is possible with WIM files to have multiple different operating system deployments in a single WIM file, and so you might occasionally see more than one index number with different names associated. What I want to do with this is then with that name, use it to mount the WIM file and that OS deployment to my mount folder I just created. To do that, I do dism mount-wim, and then WIM file install.wim. I need to identify the name in there, so that would be a Windows 8.1 Enterprise. And then lastly, the location, which would be mount dir, and then E:\test mount. What this does is then make available the contents of the WIM file in this folder that I've just created a second ago. This process takes a second for the mounting to complete, and then once that mounting is complete, I can go about browsing the contents of the WIM file as if it were just a folder structure here on my machine. Let me show you what that looks like here. If I pop back over here to my data location and test, and then the mount folder that I created a second ago. Here in the mount folder, you can see just all the different files and folders that are contained here within this WIM file. It's these files and folders that are deployed anytime I use Windows Deployment Services with this WIM file to go about deploying out some operating system instance. I could, if I wanted to, make changes and add and subtract folders here within the graphical user interface, but I want to show you the other command line tools that can actually really greatly accelerate some of these steps. I'll go back here to Windows PowerShell again, and what I want to do next is show you the next command for installing some package, some existing piece of code into the WIM file itself. Now this package, as I said, it's the RSAT tools, that remote systems administration tools that are contained in that subfolder called packages. So if I pop back over here, I can show you that if I come here to data and then test and then packages, it's this MSU that I would normally install manually onto a machine that I want to automatically add into this WIM file so it gets deployed and installed as part of that OS deployment. In order to do that, I will use DISM image, so I want to point it to the correct image, which will be test mount. Then I want to add a package. The package I want to mount here will be on the package path, test packages. And then the last part of this, which will be the file name itself, which I will actually cheat here and copy it to the clipboard. There we go, onto the clipboard, so that I can paste it in right over here. This command will go about installing this package into the WIM file that I've mounted here into this location test mount. The installation can take just a couple of minutes as it goes through adding in the package. So I'll accelerate things here to the last step in the process where we get the prompt back. This now completes the installation of that package here into this location. So that's essentially a package. We also have things like hotfixes and updates that we have to worry about as well. So let me come back here and then take a look at another command we can use to handle things like hotfixes. Now, as I said, I've already kind of downloaded this hotfix as part of a package bundle from catalog.update.microsoft.com. But what effectively I have here, if I come and bring this back up, is a copy of this patch with this very long name and another MSU file. Now I could show you exactly the same command that I showed you just a second ago for installing this update, but what I'd rather do is show you a nifty little feature here of DISM that allows you to store a bunch of updates in a single location and have DISM install them all at once. Let's use the command DISM and then image test mount and then add package. And instead of referencing this file specifically, let's do package path and then test patches. There's only one patch obviously in this location, but if there were a variety of patches, a whole list of them, this would actually go through the entire list of those and install them here into my WIM file. This is a much smaller installation than is the RSAT, so you can see how much more quickly this installation goes. The last thing I want to show you are drivers. And if I clear the screen one more time and then come back over here and just show you the driver that I've downloaded, this driver that I've downloaded is exactly that VM-SCSI driver that we were dealing with just a second ago. In this case, I want to reference the INF file associated with the driver because that's essentially the instructions that the driver needs to make sure it gets installed in the proper location. The command here is slightly different. DISM, image, test, mount, and then the command here is add driver. So driver, test drivers, and then vmscsi.inf. This will go through and install that driver again directly into the WIM file so that the driver will be available for plug and play to use when it comes time to deploy this operating system.